All right, we are now back again, recapping Georgia, Florida. Georgia winning. What was the final score? 34-20?
I thought it was, yeah, I think it was 34-20. Yes.
Right. So I picked Georgia's number right, and I was only 3 points. Did I end up winning? I
I don't
think I
know.
did, right?
I picked 37-20, didn't I? Or
No, you can't.
37-21.
31-17, you said.
No, don't think so.
I wrote it down.
Okay, tell me what you got.
Um, oh, yeah. You said 37-20. I said 34-17.
Okay, so which one's closer?
I can't do math.
Anyway, we were both pretty close.
Yeah. So I think we both kind of expected. I just didn't think that Georgia would uh, look as bad as they did that first half. I would expect a slow start. I mean, we've all have expected that. It's been what 8 games in the season now, going on our ninth. It's pretty expected. Um, I guess the game. I mean, here's the thing: we can shit all over Bobo all we want, but I gotta be honest with you. That second half, he manufactured that all of the scoring drives. I mean, it was him that the jet sweeps, the passing, the short, immediate throws there. That was all Bobo, and really the failure on the offense right now falls on Carson Beck's feet.
Yeah.
Um, so, give us your thoughts.
Uh, it's hard to win a game with three interceptions, three turnovers. But it was real obvious to me, and I kept telling you this: if you just, and which is hard to do, but if you just watch the line of scrimmage, you could see that Georgia was kicking their ass up on both sides of the ball. And that's the reason I said we're going to win this game. But it was our worst case scenario, which is a knife fight going into the fourth quarter. But that's what this team is. We can all, we're all sitting here singing the praises of what this offense could be. I know I was. Boy, was I mistaken. This is what this offense is. Now, can Beck play better? He has to if Georgia's going to have any
Yeah.
chance of getting where we all want to go. But the other thing that I think, and I'm not a quarterback guru, but I don't think Carson trusts the pocket. And I think when he starts to get some mess around his feet, he forces the ball because he relies on his arm and he thinks he can thread the needle. That's some of them. But it's got to stop when you're putting your team behind the 8 ball with 3 turnovers. It was in the first half, right? All 3 of them.
Two, and then
Two in
the second one was the first drive of the second half.
Yeah, it's hard to overcome that type of stuff. But Georgia was clearly the better team. It was, I mean, it shouldn't even have been that close. I mean, it should have been a blowout. But that's what we got this season with this team. And unfortunately, we watched Penn State and Ohio State and some of the other bigger games. All of college football looks like this. It's a race to the middle. It seems to me like there's no dominant team. So my thing is, why not Georgia? If we just don't turn it over that many times, why not Georgia? But
here's the other
underwhelmed, I guess, would be my takeaway from Georgia. I'm glad we won. Put it in the win column. And anytime you beat Florida, and I guess we're getting as Georgia fans getting accustomed to beating Florida. It's never, as a kid that grew up in the 90s, I understand it's not that common. But I expect Georgia to look better and to play better. And based on what Kirby tells us, they've got a standard. They have not performed to that standard on offense this year for sure.
Yeah, and defense was fine. I mean, that game, if you take away Beck's turnovers, the first two, the one wasn't his fault, but if you take 2 of them in the first half away, Georgia is either up 20-0 or 20-3, excuse me, or 24-3, or they could be up 28-3. Falcons. So if you take those turnovers away, Georgia probably runs away with this game and just blows out Florida by 30-plus points with DJ Lagway or without Florida fans. We don't take moral victories. That's how bad your program is. It's really sad. And to point out what you just said, and I'll get to that in a minute. Georgia fans have got to stop apologizing. I'm going to touch on that in a minute whenever we run out of talking, because it's important to talk about. Remember to like and subscribe, comment, follow us on all social medias. We're on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, Terminus Sports _ATL. If you're new to the channel, follow those. To me, if you look at it, look at the margin of victory when Carson Beck, because it's been 5 games. He's thrown all of his turnovers. Is that right?
I don't know that.
I think it's been since Alabama. He's turned the ball over in every game. The SEC slate, he's turned the ball over. And maybe no. Did he throw an interception in Auburn? I don't think so. Right, and that was probably the easiest win that Georgia had.
Right, cleanest.
Yeah, cleanest. Mississippi State was pretty easy as well. But to the point, if Carson doesn't throw, 1 turnover a game, that's pretty sad whenever you think about it. If Georgia, 1 turnover a game, Georgia would be in fine position. And now, we're going into 2 of the most important games of the year. Georgia should win both of these games. I'm not that amazed by Tennessee, and I'm definitely not that amazed by Ole Miss, even though they put up 20 million points on Arkansas. But, now if he throws interceptions in these 2 games, Georgia's not only going to lose those games, maybe not the Tennessee game, but they'll definitely lose the Ole Miss game if he does a 3+ turnover game again. And we can't have that. And especially down the stretch, and I'm not even worried about Ole Miss or Tennessee. I'm more worried about, Oregon or Ohio State, teams that can put up points. And, we're in these games, and our defense is good. Our defense is really good. But, those teams are going to find a way to beat us and offensively. And, if we can't, score and turn the ball over and give their teams, decent field position, which it seems like every time we do, we're going to lose. And that's not a recipe to win a national championship. And this team can win a national championship. To me, if you take away the turnovers, we're probably talking about how dominant Georgia is, because Georgia doesn't lose to Alabama. And Georgia blows all these teams out, and we're going, wow, Georgia's real. They're the best. Everyone will be singing our praises. And the college football committee, we're recording this Tuesday night. The biggest news, not the election, who's going to win the presidency, is going to be how the 12-team playoff kind of looks. I'll be interested to see what their rankings are. I would imagine Georgia's 3. We're recording this before. So, I don't know how it's all going to play out. Georgia had a really nice path till A&M screwed it up with South Carolina. I was pulling for A&M. But, I don't know. This team has to play better. It can play better, and it's just really frustrating to watch.
Well, the other thing, too, I don't think Carson, I don't know, but it doesn't seem to me like he has a lot of confidence. He's still, they were better, the receivers. Still, we're dealing with drop balls. Your running backs are thin, right? You've got 2 running backs at this point, maybe 3 if you consider Cash, and I do, because he's been pretty important this year. Yeah. And so you're down to 3, but to me, you're putting way too much reliance on a quarterback that right now is forcing it, A, B, doesn't trust the pocket, and I don't think trusts his receiver. So, who would have thought, especially, I get it. He's when it comes off his hand, he can throw a pretty looking ball, but who would have thought a Georgia team with 40+ when a quarterback's got 3 turnovers? That to me is, maybe I'm a traditionalist, but if if throwing the ball and our quarterback that is not what we thought he was, he's not playing like we thought he would be throwing it, playing, then we got to run the ball a little bit more. And I know that's run the damn ball, but that's really at this point. Do you think Ole Miss can stack up if we got Tate Ratledge back and our offensive line and we just say, hey, boys, we're putting this one in y'all's hands. We're going to road grade. I don't think Ole Miss can beat us. I just don't.
Know, their defensive line's improved, but I don't think so. I mean, look at last year. I know they've improved their defensive line, like I said, but I don't think they could. But it has the offensive line. They've
underperformed. They've underperformed this year.
Yeah, and really the only good game running wise that you can point to is Texas.
Yeah, yep.
Texas and Ole Miss, I would say Texas has a better front seven than Ole Miss, but so far it looks like it's game to game, depending if Georgia wants to or not.
I agree, and a lot of you and I. I'm not that I'm a guru on that either, but you and I both played offensive line. There's a lot. There's a big part of that is want to and having the grit and wanting to get after it. And I just don't think we've run the ball. I don't know. I just don't believe we've run the ball to gain any consistency and get the offensive line in a rhythm and a lather this year. And I think we're putting way too much pressure on a quarterback that's proven to be inconsistent at best, I would say.
Yeah, and the thing is, like Georgia can move the ball on anybody. And it seems like whenever we pass the opponent's 40, we just get bogged down. And I think that's receivers not winning their battles. I mean,
there's a lot of that on Saturday.
Not winning their battles like they should, and Florida's defensive backs are not that good. That's embarrassing, and and Beck not putting the ball where it needs to be, and half of his turnovers are not really his fault. So
But the other half are, and he's throwing.
The other half are, and that's where it gets egregious. And that's where I know the Georgia-Florida game is under a microscope, especially for me, because it's to me is the most important game that we play in the.
I would agree.
And so every play is life or death. But man, I really lost it, especially on the second one, because Dylan Bell there were three guys around him. Yeah. And probably if he caught the ball, it would have been 4. This is a dumb decision, and he throws late into a zone. Well, that's the biggest no playing quarterback, and I know that.
You look at it, I guarantee if you just go back and look at Carson Beck's interceptions, whether they were his fault or not, couple things. There's trash around his feet. The pocket, it's not collapse. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not collapsing. It's trash around his feet where he has to move off his spot and he throws out of rhythm and throws late. And those things will get you absolutely beat. Throw it away, man. We got a good enough defense. We don't need you to play hero ball out there. Just don't kill us. And right now it's come close. And you're right. We keep doing this, we're going to get beat. That's as simple as you can put it.
It's a matter of time. That's the thing that's really frustrating, because if George plays clean, well, it should be fine. But if you keep, drinking the poison, sooner rather than later, it's going to kill you. You're not going to build immunity to it. So,
and that's the other thing. This defense is good, but this defense is not. We haven't gotten a ton of turnovers, right? We've gotten some, but not a ton. They come in spurts, it seems like. So you can't depend on the defense, as good as they are, to come back and help you win that turnover battle. Even though we finally did, what was it, 3-2 on the turnover battle, or would they bring it?
It was really 3-1 if we're just being honest with each other. That botched snap with Florida, that's just ineptitude. So, I don't
well, they all count,
I guess, but that's just ineptitude. So let me ask you this question. Let's say Oxford 330, 339. Carson throws 3 interceptions. Georgia's still in the ball game. Does Kirby pull him?
No.
See, I gotta tell you, I don't agree. I don't. If we pull Carson back, we're not gonna win games. But he's the best quarterback we got. But I got to tell you, you got to send a message. And this is what really bothered me the most. And I almost forgot to point this out. It seems, I know he said like he gets really frustrated and down on and he gets mad at himself. But the difference between him and Stetson would do something like, I mean, Stetson was prone to turnovers too. He wasn't a perfect quarterback by no means. But when Stetson got punched in the mouth, he punched right back. And the perfect example of that is the 2022 national championship, that fumble and then the touchdown pass to A.D. Mitchell. I mean, he was, what, 3 for 3 on passes that drive or whatever it was. He was perfect on the drive.
That offense was lights out on that drive on the and the other drive too. It was
Right.
Stetson and the offensive line. It was, I think you're, and you could be right. I think you read more as a different personality, different type of person.
Well, I
but
know,
if you look at Carson coming back, he led us.
Yeah, but he got it so far where he had the only option was to play good. There seems to be no fire in him. When Kirby came over to him, he rolled his eyes. I saw that. Man, to me, it seems like sometimes his heart is not where it needs to be, and like where he threw the third.
I don't question that. I don't. I mean, the kid came back foregoing a lot of money. He's got a ton of pressure on himself. I don't think his body. We don't know the guy. His body language may be completely different. His teammates seem to be behind him. So I'm not questioning that. I don't give a shit about all that stuff. I care about not throwing 3 picks. Oh, of course it does. But you also look, and he came back like against Alabama. We never should have been there, but also against in that drive, to kind of put the game away. He comes back and makes the throws and the drives when he has to. I just wish we weren't in those positions. By his hand. So I don't know. I don't read too much into that.
Well, all I asked for is to park the Lambo in the parking garage and dump the TikTok girl. That's all I'm asking for. Because
so to get rid of your ride and your chick, that's not asking too much.
No,
I tell you, go get fucked.
Well,
but
you are fucking me every Saturday, boss.
The thing that does get me, it tells me that Kirby's trying to get better. Like when he puts he would have jumped all over Stetson. He would have been Kirby would have been all over his and Jake Fromm.
Yeah,
but he doesn't do that with Carson, and that tells me there's a different personality there. And Kirby hopefully is learning how to.
But then he goes around and he slaps the shit out of everybody on that second drive in the second half there. So I don't know, but like. Why does Kirby need to do that stuff where he has to kick him in the ass? It's very frustrating.
I agree. I don't know. We're not going to know. We're not privy to the locker room and all that kind of stuff. All I know is I saw it last year. Carson can play better, which gives me hope. But I do think to a large extent, until they prove me different, this is who this Georgia team is. And I agree with you. They are still good, even though they're not perfect. But neither is anybody else. They can win this thing. And I know we're way ahead of ourselves, but I am perfectly fine not being in Atlanta playing the Southeastern Conference Championship.
If Georgia loses this game, they're definitely not. And we're going to be going into the playoff probably on a road game, more than likely.
Well, you want to be in that sweet spot, like number 5 or whatever, where you get a home game, they come to you. So, we'll see where it all shakes out. There's still a lot to be played, but they're gonna have to clean some things up offensively, or we're just playing for.
Yeah. All right. We'll do a recap Thursday about the. They'll be up on Thursday about the Ole Miss game. I feel fine about Ole Miss. Georgia should win this game. We're at that point of the season, but I wanted to point this out. So there's a lot of excuse making from the Georgia fan base, and it's got to be called out. And I know I mentioned it a couple minutes ago, but and look, I get it. Like Florida, we've flipped the entire rivalry on its head right now. I mean, we've won 6 out of the last 7 against Florida, and then we've won 6 out of the last 8. So with Kirby, so rivalry-wise, we've done a really good job. But the amount of excuse making that Georgia fans have done about, well, we beat Florida, we'll take any way it comes, as long as we win. I know Kirby takes this game very seriously, and he wants to embarrass Florida. I mean, go and listen to his locker room halftime speech about breaking these bitches, never wanting them to play football again. And but the Georgia fan base has got to have that mentality, because I know the people in Gainesville do, and all around Florida and all the Gator Nation do. And look, they're taking moral victories, and if DJ didn't get hurt, they would have had a shot. We're winning that game. They wouldn't have, but they're taking that. Um, it's just really embarrassing to me, as a Georgia fan, as a Georgia alum, to have people in the fan base that are alums, that are like, oh, well, gee, golly, at least we won. No, guys, it's time to embarrass these guys and kick them when they're down and bury them, because they did in the 90s, they did in the 2000s. It's a joke, and that should be our number one goal every single season. It's not the national championship, not the SEC championship. Everything goes through Jacksonville. We got to kick these guys' asses. And Georgia fans have gotten too pampered, and it's embarrassing to me. So that's all I wanted to say on that.
Well, I'm never going to apologize for a victory. I do understand what you're saying. Some of I think sometimes as fans, you walk a fine line between being optimistic and wanting to have a good attitude about things, and then calling shit like it is. And I tend to call shit like it is. This offense has not played well. It's underperformed. This offensive line is underperformed. This receiving core is underperformed. In my opinion, I think Mike Bobo has underperformed. So I'm going to call it out. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to continue to pull for him. I absolutely am. And I like Bobo, and I like, it has nothing to do with that. But if you're going to tell me there's a certain standard, and that's who we are now, and pressure is a privilege, and all these things, they either mean something or they don't. And this team so far, while, I'm happy that we're all in the hunt here with 12, that's great. But we can play better, and I do expect this team to be better, honestly.
Yeah, and I do as well. So, and that should be the entire fan base. But whatever. I guess I'm one man on the island. And look, the Florida fans who are complaining about going in with a third string quarterback, we had Fatan Bauta, we had Joe Tiernasinski, Aaron Murray played awful every time down there, every single time. Even his senior year, he played awful. So, I'm not going to boo-hoo over that at all. Y'all can cry over spilled milk.
That's football. We didn't have two of our defensive backs to start because of questionable calls.
Yeah,
so we can all sit around. Yeah, we can all sit around and coulda, shoulda, woulda. Doesn't matter. You got to play with who you got, and people get hurt.
Well, and that also goes to the fact of how well Georgia's program is compared to Florida's, which is really telling on yourself. And I always find that really stupid, Alabama fans and Florida fans. We have depth. Y'all don't. Get fucked. That's what happens. So that's always been a frustrating thing with me. Anyway, whatever. I'm not going to go on that rant. All right. Georgia wins. La-di-da. Go to Ole Miss next week or this week. We'll talk about it. We'll probably talk about the playoff rankings, just because it'll be – I know you're not interested at all about it. You don't care. It will matter a little bit, because they're basically telling you how it's
going. A couple more weeks. I mean, it matters now. It tells you what they're thinking. But in a couple – the only one I care about is the one at the ass end of the regular season. That's the one I care about.
But, I mean, they're gonna show you their hand with this. So they did last year with the Texas and Alabama fiasco. And I knew it the entire time. That's why I kept saying Georgia just has to win. And, of course, they didn't. And then they did what they did.
That's the reason I didn't want – we've talked – I don't want to get down on that either. We can bitch and moan and talk about the destiny was in our hands, and we fumbled it yet again against Alabama. I don't want to get started against Alabama. It makes me angry. We could have lost to almost anybody except Alabama.
Yeah, well, then it's still a theme for this year. We would not be in the place where we're at right now. So, all right, we'll be back Thursday. Remember, like, subscribe, comment, keep subscribing, keep pushing those numbers. We appreciate it. And then follow us on all social media platforms at Terminus Sports _ATL. Our presenting sponsor, Unishippers, our wonderful sponsors there. Give us a pitch.
We work with small to medium-sized clients on helping them reduce their shipping costs, anything from large pallets, full truckloads, down to envelopes. So if you want to take a look at your shipping costs and get it in alignment, feel free to reach out to Holland Martin at Unishippers Atlanta.
All right. Before we end, prediction where Georgia's going to be in the first playoff poll.
I think 3.
3. I tend to agree. All right, and then a prediction for the election. What do you think?
Oh gosh, I think Trump's going to win it.
All right. Well, we're both going to lock that. I think. Wow, we're both on the same. That's probably bad luck.
Yeah,
depends on how you look at it. Well, half of our YouTube subscribers is just logged off. Anyway, all right. See you on the other side.
All right. See ya.